60 men were killed in the worst special operations disaster in modern history.
Residents of Coronado, California were shocked by the brutal murder of Lauren Reece and her 3-year-old daughter.
Navy SEAL Lieutenant Commander James Reece survived the ambush but is under investigation.
Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original series presented by Kansas City Cattle Company. I'm Jack Carr, author of The Terminal List. On each episode, we break down a different episode of the Amazon Prime video series starring Chris Pratt. On today's show, we're taking a look at episode 4, Detachment. Joining me today is the series showrunner, writer, and producer, David DiGilio, and series producer and actor and technical advisor, Jared Shaw, also a former Navy SEAL, and also the reason we're even on this podcast, because he gave the book to Chris. And without that, none of this would exist. So, Jared, thank you. David, thank you for taking the time to do this and for everything you put into this series over the past couple of years. It has been an amazing journey. Let's talk about episode 4, directed by E.O. Toy. So let's do it. Right off the bat, how do we start this one? One of my favorite scenes, and we went back and forth on whether we should start the whole series with this scene.
I mean, this is actually a kind of great story, and looking how the sausage gets made, which is part of the fun, I think, maybe the most fun of this type of podcast, is, that scene, which we've talked about this, like the prologue of the first book, boom, you're just in it, right? And it was the thing that grabbed me as a reader and a writer. And man, we actually were going to open the whole show with that. We had it in the first script, but sometimes, production, location, scheduling, all these things come into play. And so by the time we got that location, Antoine was off making his movie. He was making Emancipation. And so we knew, and I think going all the way back to the script phase, we kind of were going to start there, and then we were going to catch up to it in the top of 4. And the idea was we were going to see Reece's point of view of the Boykin kill to open the series, and then see Boykin's point of view to open 104. And so because of all this kind of craziness that happens in the world of production, especially during the time of a pandemic, that incredible spot, which is out near Mount Waterman here in Los Angeles County, and then with the kind of help of visual effects, we turn it into Jackson Hole, which is a place near and dear to my heart, by the way. But man, we were like, okay, by the time we got it, it is the opening of 104.
Yep.
And then we put both of them, right? We did what you did in the book. We intercut between the two points of view. And I remember your note on this was more Boykin. You love Boykin.
Well, we took it all out at one point. And I remember, Jared, remember you and I talking about it? We're like, it has to start with the sniper shot. It has to introduce the world to James Reece with this sniper shot. And, and looking back now, I think it was totally the right move to do what we ended up doing. And that's the collaborative, effect. You have to, what Stephen King calls killing your babies. Although this wasn't killed, it was just moved.
It was moved.
Yeah, this was just moved. But I think it was totally the right way to go. No doubt about it. Remember Jared talking about that? Like, we got to figure out how to do it. And I think in the end, the way that it ended up being was the way to go.
People have been loving that opening. And I think because it's, for those of us who are fans of the book, it's one of the iconic, actually this episode in general is really interesting because it has, I think, 3 truly iconic scenes from the novel in it, and we'll get to the other 2. But certainly this opening is one of the moments we were looking forward to putting on screen the most.
Yep. No, exactly. And it's kind of conflation for viewers who have read the book also, is that when we get to one of those later ones, like, wait a sec, wasn't that somebody else in the book in a different location?
Yeah.
But wow, they put it in there, and I didn't even think they'd put that in there. Yeah. So you get that kind of go on too, which I find fun for for audiences and for me,
100%.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go. But I love the Boykin opening, and it was cut. We had that the actor who plays Boykin amazing. Like totally gives that smile, takes the shot, puts it on his Facebook and social and all that stuff.
Likes his own
out
post.
front.
It's
yeah, has a sports car out there and likes his own post and all that. Like that part is fantastic. I love how we kept that in there and then added the music to it and all that. Because for a while it was just the car driving down the road in the shot.
It was just a car. Yeah, no, and we got that fantastic needle drop Masters of War in there.
Amazing.
Which had come to us. We talked about this, that kind of music process. That song had come to us as a possible song for 107, but we moved it up in post process because we thought it was just kind of a perfect soundtrack for that intercut between these two guys from two such different worlds.
Yeah, it works great. Even when he shuts the door with that song, like the shut of the door on the car, it's amazing. The music is just incredible. It's a different show, obviously, with different music, but it's just fantastic. And Jared, sniper stuff with Chris, because I wasn't there for the scene. I really wanted to be, but there was I was not able to be there for this filming. So how was it like working on the sniper stuff with Chris?
Man, it was good. It was good, and we knew we had to get this one right because of your background as a sniper. So I felt the pressure of that being a sniper as well. I'm like, man, we got to get this right. And Dave, we both went and scouted it, and we made sure, there was a bunch of us, but we made sure we found the right location, not just to film it, but then also from a sniper standpoint, and like with everything, we want to get it right, but we don't want to give away too much, and so Jack, to your point, or to your question of the sniper stuff, it was, we had to do it. We had to do it right, but stay in that vein of not giving anything away tactically, and Chris has done enough training and been behind the gun and long range stuff that he kind of understood it, and understood, we went over the little things, body position, that type of stuff, and just looking comfortable on the rifle. And Chris was able to do that. And man, that whole scene, I think just came out amazing. I think it came out really, really solid.
Yeah, big time. And this was, a great kind of lesson in the terminalist process. We have Freddie O'Toy, and it's okay, we can call him Fred. He's down with that. Fred's coming in, directing this episode. Because this scene was potentially going to be in the opening, he's coordinating with Antoine on all of the particulars. This is an extremely remote location for us. And the scouts, just to get there, were hours upon hours. And then when we get there, Jared, I think it was the third spot that you picked as, because you're like, this is what I would do. Nice. Yep. And that's how we pick stuff. And then it happened to be a gorgeous spot because it had this kind of outcropping, this tree that you see, the branches that overhang and camouflage the hide. And but it was, Fred's like, whoa. Like even Fred, who has been on some of the biggest shows on cable or streaming, if you look him up on IMDb, and he's like, this is a different level. Wow. And he had not just this scene, but then the Sicario raid, which we'll get to later. But it truly, like, even incredibly experienced high-end television directors walked in and said, wow, you guys are doing this different than I've seen before. It's amazing.
Wow. Awesome. That is awesome. And, some people out there like to point out the differences between the book and the series, which I love, because it's a different experience. You get to not just see, they're like, oh, I know this, I know exactly what's going to happen. But some people get down to the details like, oh, it was a G-Wagon in the book. Oh, it's a Porsche,
Well, should we say
it couldn't be a G-Wagon? I didn't know this going into it, and I spent some time in G-Wagons in Baghdad in 2006 doing a little covert action program over there with a government agency. So I was familiar with G-Wagons, especially the up-armored types that I used over there. But apparently, if you flip a G-Wagon like this, it just kind of hits its side for the most part and will just slide, and it won't tumble and roll just because of how it's situated. Something I didn't know. But this isn't a great commercial for Porsche, but the Porsche SUV will roll the way we wanted it to roll. So Porsche, obviously not a sponsor of the show nor of the podcast, but Mercedes, give us a ring. We'll talk. We'll talk about the next time. But
exactly.
so these things, I mean, it had to roll, had to roll.
We needed it, right? Yeah, we needed
exactly.
that dynamic shot.
G-Wagon wouldn't do that. It would just go over and slide on its side. But the Porsche with the Cayenne, is that what that's the SUV?
Yeah, we had the Cayenne.
Yeah. That thing rolls, and Max got to be second unit director on this and get the action sequence.
Yeah,
and,
Max Adams.
and roll this thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy. There's somebody driving it. They know it does this.
That's Jeff Daskell's son.
JJ.
He freaking did. I mean, everybody. Again, it's the wild thing about this show is we have TV people, film people, everyone who's worked at high end, and when that happened, and you always, right, Jared, you always like hold your breath.
Yep.
Because you want to just applaud when you see it, because it's just so just fucking high energy, kinetic, just boom. It's the moment that you imagine, right? And so you want to just applaud, but you have to wait and make sure your stuntman, your driver, gets out and gives a thumbs up. Yeah. And that one, we held our breath for a little bit.
Yeah. Especially, I was going to say, especially on that one, and we were split on that one because Max was running that, correct? And then I was up there with Chris and we were doing the sniper stuff. And so I just remember, I remember sitting there waiting like for the all clear. We heard it, but we weren't able to see it and waiting for that all clear. Then once you get it, then you're like, yeah, all right, now we're good. But that one's a rowdy one. I mean, JJ Dashnall crushed it, did absolutely amazing. Absolutely.
And Keith Willard, stunt coordinator, the amount of stuff going on to make sure everybody's safe around camera, around every part of the crew. And again, remote. I think it was upwards of 95 degrees up there that day, and 2 units working on full bore. So just awesome. I mean, that was really a special day on the show. Again, one of the toughest days, but truly, one of those moments where you're like, yes, honor the book. Honor the book.
The logistics behind that one. Remember getting everybody up there at 2 units going, the parking, so transpo and everything they did to make that happen. I mean, that's not something I would have wanted to cover down on. That was next level. Yeah.
But also I think, we've talked about this, why military veterans do so well in production, right? Because it's a massive operation with so mmany different departments that's being coordinated in a very specific tight chain of command. And it was one of our biggest days on the show.
Yep.
I mean, it's insane just to see it from the outside, and even jumping a few episodes ahead, seeing it like downtown LA, filming down there, and how you have to find parking. It's hard enough just to find parking if you're a single person trying to pull in to grab a coffee somewhere, but try to get 300 people or whatever down into area in LA to try to do these things logistics wise and feed them at the same time and get the shots. It's wild. So people don't really take that for granted when they watch a show and they think, you got some camera people up there, whatever. It is a lot to just
full
get
operation.
The people there that need to get there.
300 plus people working on this thing every day. I mean, it's really crazy. It's incredible. That part of it is remarkable. And production, that's the side of it. The department that really handles all of that. And dude, I just think this is eye-opening for a lot of people because we all love the books. We all love a lot of great movies and shows out there. It's rare that you get to see how your book becomes one of those things. And so thank you again, Jack, for putting this together.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I'm learning stuff. I'm we're always learning stuff when we have these conversations. And for people listening, they might wonder how that Porsche rolled. And isn't there there's a rocket on the bottom, right?
Piston.
And it's a piston that hits it, and then over it goes.
Yeah, it fires. So and this is a really tricky one because it takes coordination between your different departments, the driver, and camera and stunts, to fire that at the right time. And because if you misfire, and this is very common that you'll have a misfire in terms of timing, you won't get the shot. And to try to redo it would take a whole other day. And when you're talking 300 people up on a mountain, that's massive. It can kill an episode. So it's incredibly stressful for everyone to be on point, nailing that. And also, again, we mentioned our boy Max Adams, former Army Ranger turned writer, producer, and second unit director. And he's the second unit director on that part of that shoot that day. And so that's really on him. He's got to be coordinating everything with Fred, right? Fred's giving him every shot, every angle that he wants, all these things. And then he's got to coordinate all of that stuff down to just like a fraction of a second. And holy crap, we got it perfectly because they had timed the stunt so that car would flip over a berm on the side of the road. It had to go off camera over this berm because then we match cut through our incredible editor, Jim Page. He also cut the pilot. He cut episode 104. We match cut to then a separate car that special effects launches into another ditch half a mile down the road. And then we've handed back to first unit. Fred's there. Chris is there. Boom, 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 boom. You have the whole walk up to the car, which was filmed at another location, I think 5 days later.
Yeah.
Or maybe earlier. I can't remember on the schedule. So that's how big this is. Not only is this stuff happening on one day in one place, I mean, then you're stitching together moments that are happening. And it requires tremendous effort by your post-production team to make it all cohesive.
Jeez. And, oh man, that is so wild. And the stuntman in there, is there a different seat they put in that car that's special, or is it just like a neck brace and helmet and things like that? Like what's that car looking like before it gets flipped?
Jared, were you in there? Did you see the cage that they built?
No, sir. I was up high the whole time. I pretty much missed that entire scene.
Yeah,
so I mean, cage.
There's a cage. It's
like
reinforced
in like a NASCAR almost.
Yeah, it's a reinforced cage. Stunts works with special effects to make sure that happens, but they're also working with production design to hide that stuff because we're filming a driving car that you're seeing through the long lens. Then you're seeing the stunt car coming in, and you've got to be able to cut in between them. And you want to try to limit the amount of visual effects cleanup that you have to do. So there's little things that we had to do, but by and large, because we had a driving vehicle, which is all like the kind of stuff of Boykin driving and all of that, that you see beforehand. You've got the stunt vehicle, and then you've got the kind of aftermath vehicle, the one that got flipped into the ditch, the one you see come, boom, land on camera. 3 different cars involved to get that one stunt.
Jeez.
All that. And then Dave, you touched on it a bit, but I really got to experience it and learn it was the post-production of that scene, how that's all comes together. And I mean, Dave, I don't know how many sessions we had on that scene right there, really dialing it in from seeing the blood hit, to the crosshairs and the tracking and the smoke once Reece takes the shot, all of it.
Yeah, man, that was awesome, Jared. Thank you for getting that scene, the way it came out. I mean, obviously it's a special one to me. And I love that people that might watch it and say, oh, where's that scene? It's different than the book. Wait, I saw it in the preview maybe. Wait, did I see it in the trailer or the teaser? Wait a second. And then they see it like, awesome.
Yeah.
And it's a great.
No, it came out great. And once again, Dave just being willing to make sure it was done right and be able to speak the language to the post team, and the post team themselves crushed it, but nice. Dave being there daily to ensure that came to life the way it should have, and the post team for, making it happen. I think we did pretty well on it.
Yeah, no, man, I'm super fired up about that one. And then we head to the plane. And of course, once again, the plane, it's not the exact same one in the book. It almost was. It almost was the Pilatus. We had it. And then whoever we were renting it from, weren't they like, wait, it's going to land on a dirt airstrip, which it's built for, by the way, but regardless. They're like negative, and they pulled it last second. So you had to scramble, right, Dave, to find a new aircraft?
But I think actually I think what we ended up doing, if I remember correctly, is we got rid of the runway, stuck with this one so we could get the one that was closest to the book.
Yeah,
because it was going to be what's the otter?
It's an otter. Okay, got it. So that was going to be that. Okay,
it was going to be that, and I had dealt with that back when I was doing a project in Antarctica. They fly those planes down there, but they're not high end like in the same way. So I remember sending you pictures.
So we changed out the runway.
We changed out the runway, and again, but this is part of the process. Is they wanted to switch the plane to land on this dirt runway, and I had real concerns. And so my first call goes to you, Jack, and I say, I have real concerns about this vehicle, about this plane. I can do this to get this location, but to me, it's more about the plane and Liz Riley, right?
Nice.
And so I send you both pictures, of the two planes, and you were like, yeah, we should try to stick this one as close to the book as possible.
Nice.
It's a big part of the character. And so then what we do is we jettison the dirt runway, and we filmed at the same airport for Jackson Hole and Baja. It's actually the same airport. And then you give it to visual effects. So they create that awesome shot when Reece gets down to Baja and he lands, and you get that great shot of Marco. Right? Like leaning against the car, waiting for him to come in, right? And you love that car too, by the way.
Oh, I love it. I'm so glad we got those in there.
Oh, it's
three
awesome.
of them. We got three of them.
Yeah.
You got a Defender 110, old school. You got the new one, and then you have a series Land Rover, 1, 2, or 3. You can't really, I can tell exactly, but but it's awesome to have all three of those sitting there in the front of that place. It makes it. It makes that scene.
That drone shot as they're leaving that airfield, and you see the Baja coast beyond. That's the same airport that Jackson was. We just used visual effects to change the environment.
I remember in the early cuts, like you would send me the early cuts, so director's cut or network cut, or whichever one would come across. And some of my notes, which now I know I don't need to take anymore, is like, I'm like, it looks like the exact same,
right?
Exact
it's
same
like,
airport.
don't worry.
And you're like, don't worry, it'll be different. So now I know there were a few things like that, where I was like making my note, like obviously.
Yeah, you'd give your note before visual effects. Say, don't worry.
Yeah, obviously that wasn't going to slip through.
Yeah.
Looks very similar, Dave. Very similar. But no, I love that. And then the location. You remember the location when they scouted for Marco's ranch, and they went up there and they were like looking at this place, and they saw some. It looked kind of like an actual Jack Carr type of a place, and they were like, asked the owner, like, hey, did they tell you what this was for? And he's like, they told me some Hollywood thing, and they're like, well, it's for a book called The Terminal List, and he's like, Jack Carr, no way, those books are awesome, and so that was really cool.
It's amazing when we get when we run into the fans when we're out there, and this guy was incredible. He was I think a pilot who had gone into business and was a hunter and just had an incredible spot. And our Baja hunting preserve is up actually here in Malibu. That's where that location is. Yeah. So this is, again, we're working with an incredible locations department that is finding these spots. And then we work with the director, with camera, and then with visual effects to make sure we can turn it into the place we want to be.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. Awesome. And Liz, of course, flying that thing. I mean, she looks like she knows what she's doing. I mean, Tyner Rushing, all the amount of work she put in to get this right. I mean, I'd get in a plane with her right now and go flying. I mean, just based off the acting,
We need her. She should just be a pilot right now. We need him.
Exactly. Seriously. Exactly.
Yeah.
People can trust her. She's played a role on TV.
Yeah, she could have flown us to the UFC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But this is all lead up to Sicario raid, and this is the second scene that you were talking about, Dave, earlier. But before we get to there, we got another, like two of the, people will focus on Chris's line a little later on, stay off my list, I am justice, like those types of things. But I think, two of the most chilling lines come from the women in this show. And both of them one of them's in this episode, one of them's to come shortly as a flashback. Catherine Dyer her line.
Oh yeah,
that one, and then this one when Paula says, "Don't come back."
Ooh.
Like those, like both those. I mean, I think the two most chilling lines, like to me as a viewer, are those two. I think.
It's a great point, and this is, this goes to this notion of kind of revenge without constraint, and I think, Jared, this was something Chris was really into, which is like the notion of the tumor and how Reece both kind of hides it, but also uses it to go to places he's never been, because this truly is a man who has nothing to lose except his vengeance. And that scene in the bedroom after he's basically, because we talked a lot about this, the tumor is really interesting, right? Because it drives things, but then in the book we've got the kind of the voicemail, right? From it ends with the sense of, okay, you're going to be okay. We wanted to kind of layer that in. We knew we had an idea of what the ending was going to be, but we wanted to layer that sense of you might be able to live with this if you stop down. Like if you just take 6 to 9 months and just stop down, like maybe you can get this thing dealt with and have your life. But he knows if he takes 6 to 9 months off, Horn and all the rest of the names on the list they could have gone to ground, and he'll never, ever have a chance at them. And so he makes that decision to just treat the symptoms. And at that point, it's all out in the open. This thing that's been haunting him, as much as the loss of his men and his family, it's all out in the open. And that's how Paula knows, right? Like you're all in, like to a place like you don't care if you die doing this. And your friends are trying to help you do this so you can live. Like that is really like, I mean, that's again, you guys are dealing in that world of sacrifice and, being with your brothers downrange and asking these questions of each other all the time. Like, civilians, you don't deal with that nearly, maybe ever, but it's through watching, great characters and people wrestle with these big themes that you gain an understanding, right? And that scene and the way each of those actors plays it.
Yeah, it comes back in the end, comes full circle at the end. The final scene, another very powerful one that I love. I love scenes like that. Like when at the end, we'll get to it, but when Chris leaves at the end there and gets on the plane. I love how things come back when there's little, things come full circle, and that's one of them. But Jared, you were there for that, right? For the filming of all of this.
Yeah.
I remember you were texting me because you're like, I'm not going to have service. We're going down in some canyon. I won't be able to talk for another 5 hours or something like that.
No, up in Malibu, right, Jared?
Up
in Malibu.
It was 3
days, we had no service.
Yeah, no service. And it was, I would always try to keep comms with you, I knew your schedule was crazy, but, both Dave and I always try to keep you kind of updated on what we were doing. So if we had, there are times where there's a window of no comms, like, all right, buddy, just letting you know,
going
dark for a while. Yeah, exactly. But that was that scene was powerful. Her feeling like she needed to protect her family. Once she realized what was going on, she was like, okay, like now I'm going to Mama Bear it and protect my family. And that was like, Jack, you even just saying the line again gave me goosebumps, because
I'm telling you, man,
it was powerful. Yeah,
really was. And then Catherine's in the other, Catherine Dyer, the next stuff, man. It's just those two are big ones. And who's the actor that played the doctor in Mexico?
Oh my God,
was fantastic.
I will have to look him up, but in our day player Emmy category, he is in there. And,
awesome.
And oh my God, he's fantastic. He's from Mexico. Legit from Mexico, incredible actor. I think we flew him up, Jared, got him tested in. He was someone we cast pretty late in the game. Sometimes this is happening, like when you have a really key role, your casting director is sending you these things via the internet, little remote reads.
Yeah.
And then we saw him and we're just like, that's the guy. And they're like, great, but he's in Baja. Get him here. Bring him to from Baja to Baja.
Send Liz in the plane.
Send her in the plane.
You know, let's do this for real.
Man. But I love that. I mean, just love that scene. Love the way it's shot.
So good. I know.
Fred and Evans Brown is a DP for this episode. You know, put that camera high angled, looking down on Reece, who's just kind of rimmed in light, and you're just in his head. You're just boom, right in his head as he's wrestling with this stuff.
Yeah, no, it was. Hopefully we can work with that guy again because he was. Yeah. I mean, everybody stands out. You know, it's like. Even if they're just there for a short minute, and sometimes you do it in the books, people sometimes don't like it, and I build up a character and like have this backstory and all this relationship, and then bam, they get their head chopped off, or they're like bam, they turn the key in the ignition and they're gone. You know, and you just snatch them away. Or sometimes you develop a character just for a certain thing, and then you never, it just doesn't work to get them back in or to put them in a future novel, and that just happens. But I kind of enjoy that, and I enjoy that in other novels as well.
I think it's special, though. I think it makes your writing stand out because it makes you care about what happens. It's like, it's not just violence, it's character-driven moments.
Character-driven.
It's all character-driven. So, we just...
about the characters.
Exactly. So that was a big thing whenever we're casting somebody. It's like, do I care about that person?
Yeah.
It was a big, big thing. But
Yeah. And then once again, Sicario scene, we move into this, and it's another one. So in the lead up to this, and I never gave any hints, people would say, there's no way they're going to allow this Sicario scene. There's no way they're going to allow this gutting scene. Yeah. There's a few things they said there's no way they're going to allow to happen. And it's in there. It's a little different than the book. But I like, how it's different. I like all the changes, all the things that are different. I love it builds upon a foundation, but propels a story with new elements. And as a storyteller and a creator, I love that. I love that. If it was just the same as the book, it would people would be saying they'd be saying it's just a modern day version of Death Wish or something like that. You know what I mean? What's new? What's new? Well, there's a lot of things that are new in here. That psychological thriller, conspiracy thriller, revenge thriller, political thriller, all interwoven together. And to tell that story, some things need to change. And the Sicario raid is it's pretty dang close.
It's pretty dang close.
Now we have, now we continue to develop the character of Ben. We get to continue to see them work together, and I think it's fantastic because you're not just seeing one man do everything. It's a little different. Now we have some rain coming in the daytime, which is fantastic for this one. It changes it from the tunnels. We have rain coming in, and the way that the camera captures all that, and that was cool to be there. So I was there for this, and that was super cool to be on set and to see them film this and see all the training that Taylor Kitsch did with Ray Mendoza, who's a former SEAL buddy of ours who has War Office Productions, who's the technical advisor on this. And they went to the range, and Ray had Taylor just working this shotgun and getting
at home.
He got legitimately good
at home. Like Taylor's walking around his home with the shotgun and dummy rounds.
It's great,
right? And he's sending videos. And we're all kind of like watching him get better and better and better because we knew we needed that moment. Well, one, we knew I think we've talked about this, but like this notion of trying to differentiate the characters through their action. And that was my request to Max and then to Jared and Ray. And then Gary Tours are incredible. Head of props and weapons master, just a incredible armorer, showed up with that shotgun, and that started Taylor's journey. I mean, every day he wasn't on set, he was just practicing, and that's a moment. There's another moment where, like in the edit, after he's been on Squirter Patrol, as I believe Max referred to it, outside, taking people out that Reece is flushing out. He comes in and he's reloading. How long you need? 10 seconds. And like we show him reloading. And
It's
I
like
can
2
remember,
seconds.
yeah, by the way, it's like 8 seconds, maybe 5. But like, I can remember like network or studio or somebody being like, can we just please cut that and move on? It was like, no.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny about that, Dave,
Yeah.
is my dad actually called me yesterday about that exact scene, what you're talking about with the reloading. So my father's former law enforcement, 27 years, DPS trooper, narcotics, and finished as a Texas Ranger. So he watches movies and he hates most of them because they're not authentic. And before we even started filming, that was one of the things he said. He said, son, will you please make sure these weapons don't have, endless supply of rounds. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, nope, I got you, and so he, about that exact scene, he said, son, I just loved how you see Taylor come in there, Ben come in there. How long you need? 10 seconds. And boom, you show him reloading it. And you show the reload. He reloads at one point previous to that, even throws a couple more rounds in there. And that was something that stood out to my dad. And I guarantee you other people as well. And seeing Taylor work that shotgun, like you're saying, and Dave, like you said, we saw the progression of it the first time we went to the range, and Ray was working with him. He was a guy that hadn't shot a shotgun or manipulated it very much. And then that progressed to this Sicario raid, and he looks like a seasoned pro on it. I mean, he's just getting after it, and it really stands out. Really cool.
No, now he's going to go compete in the world championships of 3-gun in a couple weeks. I don't know if people know that or not, but not really. Nobody freak out.
So good.
Where did the shotgun come from? I forget. Was it in one of the original scripts, or did it evolve, or did you guys?
No, it evolved. It evolved and evolved. So we have a really great writing process on this. And I was just texting with one of the writers of the finale about this, but the writer of this episode is a great writer named John Lopez. I've worked with him on multiple shows, known him for over 10 years. Wonderful, wonderful dude. John is Mexican-American and has long wanted to write a script set in Mexico. And so when I knew we were doing this episode, I was like, yep, John, here you go. Nice. Because I've read a script. He has a script about a young sicario. That was one of his first feature samples. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And so you have John build this incredible script. Then we go in, we kind of pull it into the voice of the show, get your notes, Jack. We get the whole team's notes, Jared's, Chris's, Antoine, boom, right? Then as we get towards the actual shooting, then I have Max, who has a background as an operator, do a pass. And that's a new authenticity pass on the action, right? So the Sicario stuff, the raid at the end of 8, we have him evolve it further. Then he goes out with Jared and Ray and Keith or Dash, who's whoever's stunt coordinating the episode. And then they walk it out. And then another pass is done. Mm-hmm. And so in between, I think John's step and Max's step was kind of when I had the discussion with Max of like, how can we differentiate their fighting styles? Mm-hmm. Because those who know Ben from the book know he's very different, right? And you've talked about this in terms of like the enlisted men versus the officer, and there's and Ben is even I don't want to give anything away in case people are listening to this as they go, but those who know.
They should wait. They shouldn't listen. If you're listening to this already and haven't listened to and haven't watched the show, go stop now.
Yeah, exactly. Stop now. But spoiler alert, boom. Like you have to be able to hint at what Ben is capable of.
Yeah. And
this brute force weapon, right? But then he'll slide his slug in and be able to shoot precision, right? Nice. And to slide between the two.
This guy's been paying attention.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It makes me so proud when you do things like that. It just makes
Thank you.
Yeah. Warms my heart. The Terminal List podcast is presented by Kansas City Cattle Company. Kansas City Cattle Company believes in keeping things authentic, and they believe if you taste the product, you'll taste the difference. Kansas City Cattle Company is veteran owned and operated and delivers Wagyu beef and other high quality proteins with a palatable difference to all 50 states. They have Brookshire pork, pasture raised chicken sourced from another veteran owned company, and sustainably caught seafood. They're also known for their world famous Wagyu hot dog, which was featured by foodandwine.com in a viral article saying they had found a hot dog that tasted like steak. Other bestsellers are their Wagyu steak, briskets, and tri-tip roasts. There's also been buzz about their Wagyu bacon cheeseburger brats. Other favorites include Wagyu hanger steak, Wagyu bone-in ribeye, and their Wagyu chuck eye steaks. The team started Kansas City Cattle Company to bridge the gap in high-quality proteins and top-notch animal husbandry practices to the end consumer. They believe good protein starts with good conditions for the animals. As the company grew, they hired their first employee, a veteran, just getting out of the Army. From there, their new mission to hire an all-veteran staff was born. Today, their mission now includes serving high-quality protein to those they once served and helping other veterans find their new mission post-service. Save 15% on the exclusive Terminal List collection at kccattlecompany.com/Jack Carr with code JackCarr15. That is JackCarr 15. That's KC Cattle Company, KCCATTLECOMPANY.com/Jack Carr, JackCarr, and use that code JackCarr15.
It is really wild, right? But it's like you see the two sides of Ben Edwards in this raid.
Yeah.
In this raid.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, it was so crucial to be able to have that moment.
And I remember, Dave, when you kind of pitched that or explained that to me, of like that was going to a deeper level. You know, I'm thinking about the sicario raid, and I'm thinking about the action side of it, and like how we're going to accomplish this, how we're going to make it look right, authentic, real, you know. But when you brought that up with Ben and being able to see what you were just explaining, like that, those two sides of him, and like, it, you know, and how he differentiates from Reece even during the gunfight, you know, I was like, dude, that's brilliant. That really, like, I love that. I love being able to work at that and then see Ben portray it, you know, and come to life, you know, and it was just, it's fascinating, you know, and talking about when he does switch that slug, you know, from buckshot to slug, slug, you know, and most people aren't going to pick that up, which is okay. You know, like that's all right. It's not for everybody. Yeah, exactly. But the people that do pick it up, they're going to see that little switch, you know, they're going to see him pop out a shell and put that slug in and take that shot, you know, and that, I guarantee you, there'll be people that listen to this and go back and rewatch it and like, oh, okay. I didn't see it the first time. Yeah. That's that attention to detail. That's going the extra little inch to be like, all right, watch this, you know, this. How you
this is a big thing that comes again from the book, right? Like Marco is part of this action because, and we spoke to DEA agents who had worked down in Mexico and have been in that world, and that was like a big thing they were saying as well, and it's captured in the novel, which is like you have a guy like Marco, and the cartels come into his world. He's going to want to eradicate it. He's going to want to push back. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big thing of like bringing kind of Marco, you know, in to this raid through Auron. And like, man, I mean, all of it all came together. And then Mr. Pratt and where he goes. And, and I think we can talk about that final scene because that's also a great kind of evolutionary moment in the storytelling.
That was an important one because it's going to change. You know, obviously, and I tried to give as many warnings as I could in the lead up. Like, it's going to change. And still people are like, it's not the same. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate you telling me. I know it's not the same.
But we got
this in there. But before we get to that, we have the part you're talking about with Ben is where and we have Taylor also in the middle of this scene rolls an ankle coming down these steps and takes this fall and like goes down pretty good. And I was like, oh man, Like, how are we going to do this? And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would have gone to he had to get checked out eventually, but he pushed through doing this thing with a pretty messed up ankle. And thank goodness it, got it on some ice and all that stuff. But later, but he pushed through this thing like with a pretty a jacked up ankle, and still finished the scene and got the shots. And we got to get the one part that you're talking about, Dave, where he puts those 2 rounds in that might not necessarily be, might not have been necessary, but we see that flash. That was an important one to get in there. That maybe at the end, or if people watch it twice, they'll be like, okay, now I see some of these things that
the darkness.
That were the lens. Exactly. And Gary Tours, talking about him, he is either, and I have to go back and look, it's either 3rd generation. I don't think it's 4th generation, but it's at least 3rd generation Hollywood. And it's 2nd or 3rd, depending if it's a 4th or 3rd generation Hollywood, in this doing what he does with props.
And props is amazing.
Yeah. He grew up around it. I mean, I loved hearing his stories about his dad, like working on Knight Rider and like all these shows growing up. And I'm like, no way. The 70s and 80s, all these incredible shows. And he, was in the family. But yeah, he's 3rd generation for sure. And it's possible 4th, but it's like but props wasn't the first person. It was like Hollywood something in the beginning. And then it was like props. And what an amazing guy.
Dude, his whole
that
team.
Shotgun. Yeah. It was, but to get that shotgun in there, I think is so important. And it's something that I'm taking from, there's so many things that I'm taking from this experience and going forward into the novels. And people can see it in this last one, In the Blood, because that one is the one I wrote while we were doing this, while we were filming this. Yeah. But one of those things is that, because in my mind, as I'm writing a book, I would probably almost certainly have given both of them M4s, because that's pretty much their background. That's my background. We use shotguns for breaching. But when you see someone run a shotgun, it's like, it's so cool when you see them actually run it visually and actually put a shotgun into this latest this novel.
I noticed that. I love it.
But that was going in anyway because the other ones weren't sighted in. So it's like, these things aren't sighted in. Well, here's a shotgun. I'm going with that. And because then all these weapons and gear and cars I always use to tell a story about the characters, to develop the characters. But in writing, I probably would have just given these guys M4s. That's their background, and they play off each other, just like, if we were to grab something and go and clear a house. So the introduction of the shotgun into this scene was just a genius. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And it looks so
and
good.
then you see when Taylor goes dry on the shotgun and transitions to the pistol.
That great moment.
Yeah, that takes some time to learn, not just learn it, but be proficient at it and smooth with it. And he looks great when he does it, and that was another thing that my dad brought up when he called. He's like that, he transitioned effortlessly to that pistol, So once again, Taylor just putting in the work, making it happen.
My wife thinks that Taylor looks great doing anything, though, so it's not really.
I don't think she's the only one.
I know this experience.
I think most guys. Most guys do.
Oh yeah.
What a great guy, but so awesome. And then then we get to that scene that most people. That's probably the one that most people said they thought would never happen. I don't know why people are so cynical and so negative. It's just something about social media and society in general. But you would just get these comments out of nowhere, like, no way Amazon's going to allow the gutting scene, like, which, okay, but they're kind of right. But there's really, no need to.
But this was what was wild. This is what was wild. And this is, I think we can share this kind of evolution, this behind the scenes evolution. When John had kind of done his pass on the script, there was a big fight between Navajas and Reece, and it kind of ended with like a combat knife with like a really slow like decapitation. Like, it was gnarly, but it was that's what was like in the script. It was like, on like Saving Private Ryan. In that end with like the like super slow, like, it was good like that, but with like a knife going through, because this is the man who killed his wife and daughter. Like, there's a different level with this, right? So we knew that when Reece gets to this name and gets to this person, that there would be something like beyond primal, and it's the midpoint of the season for a reason, right? Because he's kind of like crossing over from SEAL into insurgent through this kill. And holy crap, like I think it was during the fight choreography process and production where we realized we did not have enough days to film this whole Sicario raid and a fight and the Navajas kill. So the fight had to go. So then how is he going to get to this moment? So it was through discussion. We said, okay, well, what if it's just the Navajas kill? Like the fight is like that, you know? And then Chris is really freaking strong, right? Like the dude he's like, I can drag a body.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt is like, I can drag a body. He's dragging Navajas into this warehouse. And then this was the moment where it clicked, like, oh, we're going to use the Howard kill from the book on Navajas, because it is the most visceral kind of kill in the book. And so it marries up with emotionally what we were trying to do in this moment. And the tomahawk, right? Which is the cross tomahawks. Jared's wearing them. You got them on your hat. Like the tomahawk's an iconic piece of the Terminalist world. And so, boom. Yeah. Oh, man.
I mean, tomahawk check.
Tomahawk check.
There we go.
Dave, case of beer.
That's a tomahawk check.
There we go.
Nice.
Right?
Tomahawk check. Love it.
And and so this became the moment. And so yeah, it was a battle to include it. Even though we had like a decapitation before, this was considered different. So the fans who were calling that out, Jack, they weren't wrong. Like it was probably the toughest battle. But it's just the most primal moment.
Yeah.
And also a shout out to Spider, who plays Navajas. Oh my goodness.
Total stud.
Such a great job.
Oh my goodness. This is a stunt man who can fucking crush it on the acting side. What he like where he went, and it was freezing for him. Like it was really a brutal, hard experience because we were into a split. So at night, everything's wet, everything's cold after being, 100 degrees during the day. It's now dropping. Ooh, man. He brought it.
Yeah, he did.
He brought it.
Really did.
Yeah, that was incredible. So we almost had a decapitation, which is in the book in another scene for another character who's not in there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because there's just not enough. I mean, we talked about this early on. I mean, Dave, you told me early on that, hey, there's not enough time, even in 8 hours, to have every single person that gets killed in the book be the same and all that stuff. It's just not enough time to develop the characters and propel a story forward where you have people buying into it and caring about what's going on. It's just a bunch of kills. And so some things made it and some things didn't. And some things were like the book and some things were used like this one right here. A very important scene, but it's with a different character.
Exactly.
Or one, Reese is the same, but the person who gets their entrails torn out is not the same, different person. But it works in telling the story in a visual medium, which is important to understand, obviously. And I was on board. I learned so much throughout this whole process. But do you remember the body that they had, the fake body with all the intestines, like the real like miles of intestine, like in this thing.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Some things didn't make it, some things ended up on the cutting room floor, as they say, but they had a full-on body with the entrails, like legit cadaver.
Yeah. Like the same, I can't remember if it was the same company that made Donnie's head or not.
It was.
But
if I recall, it was.
Those special effects, makeup, prosthetics and stuff. I mean, it's a whole art form unto itself, and you like multi-generational, like Gary, you have people who've been doing that out here in Hollywood their families for generations too. And yeah, but it's like this episode, looking back on it, is almost like another pilot. Mm-hmm. It's almost as big, in scope as our 101. And and then it's got just so much, just inspired, if not exactly the book, inspired by the book, including like Katie. And because in the book, she heads to her brother's house to get off the grid. And here we get to actually stay with Constance. And one thing I've heard during as people watch, it's very common for like the first 3 episodes kind of introduce you to the world of a show. Mm-hmm. And then around episode 4, you just take the volume and turn it up. And like people really get sucked in, on 4. And the other thing I've heard is like, this is the episode that convinces them, those who don't know the book, that Katie's truly on his side.
Nice. Interesting.
And it's because you feel her compulsion for truth above everything else in this episode. Yeah. So I love that stuff as well. This was a big one and a fun one to pull off.
Yeah. And before, where this came from, where the gutting came from. So I was having lunch with a guy years ago. Yeah. I just figure if people are like, this guy's pretty demented, like to come up with this stuff. So I just want to being a student of history, but also, I mean, I had heard of it before, but in the Shining Path guerrilla movement, but it was kind of one of those things that I'd studied a long time ago. And then I sat down for lunch with a guy, and he was involved in Iran-Contra back in the day. And so I was talking to him about that. And there's some little things that I put in the novels that kind of are little touch points with that time in history, because it was very formative in my experience growing up. Just watching the hearings and seeing all the growth up there and all that stuff. I'm in 6th grade, I think between 6th and 7th grade. But it was very impactful. And so I was sitting down with this guy for lunch, either when I was right in the middle of the book, or when I started, somewhere around that time frame anyway. And he reminds me of this, and he brought it up, and I said, oh man. So it must have been right when I started writing. And I was like, oh, that's perfect for James Reece. I'm writing this story of revenge without constraint. My character is a student of history. I remembered that part. And then he brought it all home in this conversation. It was just him and I at lunch, just the two of us. And it's, it was a fascinating conversation, which is it's another story. But yeah, that's where I went right home and was like, boom, this has got to go in. And and sure enough, it did. And here we have it. Here we have it on the screen. Thank you, Amazon.
Thank you. I mean, seriously, thank you to them, because that's a big risk.
They took a lot of risks actually with the show.
Yeah, big time. And it just, you just see, like, you follow any reaction to the show, people hit 4 and, oh my God.
I can't believe they did it.
They did.
Yes, we did it. We did it.
You know what's amazing though, coming from that is, Dave, look at your background. That's the everywhere that poster is Reece holding the tomahawk from that scene. It's an iconic.
Justin Lubin.
Yeah, exactly. Great photographer. Yeah. And that's become kind of the most iconic scene you picture, that came from that. So it's really cool how it all worked out. So thank you, Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. Big time. Incredible. Here it is right here. Justin Lubin on set every day to take photos. And look at that one.
Nice.
That one right there.
Amazing.
And that becomes,
that's amazing.
Yeah. One of the iconic photos from the set, one of the iconic scenes from the set. But man, from the show.
That rain, dude. I still can't get over it. That rain and that, the awesome light, the pinpoints of light that are coming into the warehouse.
Amazing. Beautiful.
Look at that. Tomahawk like that, never before been seen on film. Yeah. That front spike like that. Yeah. It's that tie. It's that tie to ancient weapon, modern materials. It speaks to the character. And here we go. We got it in there. So I'm so glad that we ended up getting it in there. Man.
It's the evolution.
Look at that.
It's the evolution, man. Oh yeah. That one. I love that. That shot's amazing. Right there. Yep.
Yeah, I ran and got these right before. Here's another one from. Here they are on Marco's Ranch right there. Yeah. So many great ones. Yeah.
Aron, he was such a great character. Do you remember, Dave, his name?
No, I'd have to. Was it Jonathan? Jonathan.
Yeah. Yeah, he was former military. He was Navy for I think 8 or 9 years, and has gotten to the acting game, and he's phenomenal. I ended up becoming decent buddies with him afterwards, and learned his story a little bit, and just
Jonathan Medina.
Yeah, Jonathan, just great, and he did fantastic. Everybody
so
crushed
good.
it.
And before we leave this section behind, we got to talk about the Eccles rifle again, the legend. And once again, Gary Tours going above and beyond, linking up with Eccles out here, and Darcy Eccles, who is out here in Utah. It's the rifle in the book. It's the Night Force scope from the book, and Gary got it, tracked it down, made it the same. And then when we get to the end of this, and we come full circle with this episode with Chris. Great. I mean, what an amazing line. Just hold on to it till I come back.
Yeah.
That's great.
He knows, right?
I love
he
that.
Knows.
She knows.
That shed look between them.
Yeah.
I love that.
Powerful.
She knows he's not coming back. He knows he's not coming back. And that scene really, that's a powerful one right there. I love that.
Yep.
Of course, and then Liz Tyner closing hatches and doing all the things she's doing, just like a real pilot. I mean, it is so fantastic. I absolutely love it. But you're right, this one right here. I mean, and we got the Job reference in here as well.
That scene by the fire, man.
Scene by the fire is fantastic.
Yep.
The view.
Yep.
I mean, there's gosh. I mean, you can't. And
then look, you can barely even there's so much going on in this episode. You can barely even touch upon, this incredible uptick that's happening on the conspiracy side with Horn going to Washington and confronting Stephen Bishop, who was also a great find, had worked with Chris on Moneyball.
Nice.
Unbelievable actor. Crushes it. I love that scene down in the tunnels of the metro station.
I love when he hurries
so
away.
Great.
I guess that part
he's
is
playing
so
it
great.
tough.
Kind of looks back.
He's playing it tough. He's standing up to Jai, who's just a beast. Just standing up to him. He's throwing it back at him. And the moment Jai leaves, he's just like, oh, fuck, and runs back.
It looks like a rat underground, It's like the rats are underground, and they're in the tunnels.
Yeah.
But that part right there, gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one thing that, and I don't want to jump to the end if we're not at the end. So just tell me, but I've gotten questions about the in memoriam card on this episode. So just to let people know, Arturo Moreno was a costumer. He's an on-set costumer. Okay. So this is like somebody who is tracking everything that the cast is wearing. It's an incredibly stressful job, but he was Mexican American and had grown up in Mexico, and he actually stepped into the role of technical advisor for us for any scene set in Mexico or involving any of the actors speaking Spanish. He is a guy who truly stepped up above and beyond, because authenticity is key to every part of this show. And sadly, and by the way, actually, he came up with the name Navajas as well. By the way, there was a different name for that character, and he gave us that. And but sadly, he passed after filming. It was a real tragedy. And but he was a real part of the family that made the show, and so we wanted to make sure we honored him with that final card.
And just a good man, good human, good-hearted human. He was just, that one was rough. That nobody saw that coming,
Always smiling. That's the thing.
Always
smiling. Yeah.
And helping, and just a good human being.
Yep. But again, the love and passion of people making this show. Everybody totally, Jack, we talk about this all the time. There'll be people who will be like, why didn't they do this? Why did they do that? Those things. But every choice that was made out of passion for this book.
Boom, there it is. There it is.
The
OG
original.
right there.
The OG.
Yeah. Trident on the cover, collector's edition. Yeah.
Yep.
And now there's a new collector's edition. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at this guy on the cover. Look at that right there.
There we
That's
go.
Ben Bracken. When I went through LAX the other day when we were leaving from UFC and then back to LA, it was all this, every single screen in LA, every single one, every like 2 minutes is playing the Terminal List posters on there, and that little glitch, which is awesome. And then I walked in and every bookstore had this in it with Chris on the cover. That was pretty surreal. So I go and I sign them, and try not to let the people working there know what I'm doing, just in case. And I just sign them all, and there he goes. That's the trade paperback right there. So that's a little larger for people that that's the difference right there. And size wise, I love trade paperback, but in this one, I love the hardcover the most in this particular version because it has the new forward where it talks about how all of this came about. I talk about all the different people involved in the show, all the veterans involved in the show. George Sack with the Land Cruiser and doing the mobility stuff in the show. Gary Tour's in here. Mike Panovic's in here. Kat Samick and what she did. Like everybody I could think of, I got into this forward as a thank you in here and just talk about how this came to be. And then we got Justin Lubin's pictures in the middle, which they usually do not do. So a lot of those ones right there that I have there, I don't think I can even remember a book where they've done this before, where they've done a hardcover and where they have done also pictures from the show in it. Cool. But they did it with this. So pretty really dang cool. And
love it.
And a lot of times what people also don't think about when they see a show is they don't think about how long it took and what was going on in the lives of everyone involved. So those 350 people that we reference that made this show possible over a 5 to 6 month period when we're actually filming, and then afterward also in post-production, but really during that meat of it where you have all those people running 100 different directions but focused on the same mission. It's just chaos. But they have things going on in their personal lives as well. They have parents in nursing homes getting COVID. They have children who are sick. They have divorces. They have deaths in the family. They have all these things happening. And this in memoriam is just when you see a card like that at the end of a show, it does make people pause, which is why you're getting those questions, because hopefully it makes them remember that, hey, a lot of people put a lot of work into this and they had lives throughout that entire process. And you, Dave, is leading this thing. That's like being the troop commander, being the operations officer, being the commanding officer, being the command master chief. It's you have to know these personally and professionally. You have to be interested in every single one of your people. And that's what you did. And that was so impressive to me from the first time I walked on set, looking around and being like, look at all these people. They're going to be on set. They've already been here a week and a half, 2 weeks. And now we're moving into another, but it's still very early on in the process. A lot of things are going to happen in their lives throughout this next few months. And you're the one personally and professionally that's going to have to deal with that on all those different levels. The emotional side, professional side, and you did it. I can't imagine anyone doing it better. So hats off to you, and thank you for that.
Thank you. Again, Chris also is exactly the same way. We say, a lot of life happens around the making of a show. A lot of life. And
you told me that on that first time on set.
Yeah, and you show up, and everybody has had. Sometimes it's only 4 hours of sleep, and the reason often that you only have those 4 hours of sleep is, you're working on your show, but also you're trying to make time for those in your life as well. Right. And so you get up early to see your kids. You will try to give back, race home, see them before they go to bed, all these things. And, again, we talk about this all the time. We're only making a show. When you guys do it, you're deploying downrange. You are fully separated. And we were lucky, very lucky, to be able to, sleep when we did in our own beds. And again, it's just about the kind of passion that people are putting into it, and making sure they know that you appreciate that passion, because it's a long time before it gets out to the fans. Right? It's a long time. So you're just feeding off your own and each other's passions, that mission, right? Yeah. And so it's a great moment for everyone involved in the show to see it get out, see the fan reaction. It's just been awesome. And that's why we're here doing this.
Yeah,
for the
we recorded the
fans.
first 3 before it came out, and then we're
Yeah.
recording this a couple days after it's been
Yeah.
out there. So incredible. Let's move on to episode 5. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll wrap this one up in episode 4. What a pivotal episode in the series with these all these things that happened. I could not be more thrilled with the way that that this came out, and to have Amazon take these risks with us. Hats off to them. All right, thank you for listening to the Terminal List podcast, an Ironclad original brought to you by KC Cattle Company. If you like the show, be sure and leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on the social channels at Jack Carr USA. OfficialJackCarr.com is the website. You can sign up for the newsletter there. And David DiGilio, be sure and follow him at DiGilio Films. That's DIGILIO Films on Instagram. And Jared, we'll never be on Instagram, is what he said. We'll see. Anytime somebody says never, I'm like,
Yeah.
So we shall see.
We'll
So
see.
thank you guys so much for being a part of this podcast, and then for everything that you did to bring this show to life. So
Thank you,
thank
Jack.
you so much.
Thank you.